Hey, it's Shana. Welcome to Controlled Chaos, the podcast where we dive into the world of recovery, sharing stories of experience, strength, and hope from those who have been there and made it through. No matter where you are in your battle with addiction, alcoholism, or mental health struggles, know that there is a way out. Throughout my sobriety journey, I have often felt alone and doubted my ability to even stay sober. Starting this podcast in my room just 2 months ago, I had a dream of reaching people just like me, those who felt hopeless. As a woman in recovery, I began with 0 followers, but with a dream of offering hope to even just one person. The mission of this podcast is to connect, inspire, and provide hope to those feeling lost or struggling with addiction. Remember, the opposite of addiction and isolation is sobriety and connection. Let's come together through the Controlled Chaos podcast and support each other on the journey to healing and growth. Hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and let's build a community of support and understanding. Love you mucho. Welcome to Controlled Chaos. My name is Shana. I'm your host, and today we have Mohawk Matt with us. Can you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Mohawk Matt. I'm from the San Fernando Valley. Grew up in the valley throughout the late 80s and the 90s. I've been sober for 6 years now. I just passed 6 years on May 18th. I sponsor a couple guys. I try to stay as connected as I can. I work in social media. I do modeling. I do marketing. I do sales for my company, Selling Clothing. Big shout out. Wait, we're over here. Big shout out to Selling Clothing. I do modeling. I do podcasts. I do backgrounds in movies. I worked at conventions. So I got my hand in like 20 things at one time.
Yeah, so I think I originally have just been seeing you like all over Instagram, and I think it's with like the dope stick clothing, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Okay.
I'm friends with. I'm really involved with them. Also, they got a good message and they give back a lot too. Yeah.
Yay. So what is your clothing?
Well, I don't have my own brand. I work for Sullen Clothing, so like it's like tattoo artwork on clothing, and I do a lot of stuff with Dope Stick. I really love the owner, Malcolm. Malcolm's one of my best friends. I got a lot of love for that guy.
I love that. So I think that's kind of where I started seeing you around and just really loved your message. Like you're super outspoken,
Yeah.
not quiet, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely not quiet. I'm very aggressive in my opinions and my beliefs. So like when I met you, I think I told you there's a couple things I always ask people, especially when it comes to like a lot of these groups that say they're about recovery, but they're handing out needles and stuff like that. So it's really confusing. Even the marijuana subject alone, that's a hugely touchy subject in California for us right now.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
it's legal in California, right?
It's legal, yes, but so what we have is an influx of a lot of people coming from other states because in California, it's legal. So they're doing this thing where they call it California sober, but the rest of us who are sober, we don't agree with that. It's not like sober has off of all mind altering substances. Now, there's nothing wrong with smoking marijuana. I don't have a problem with it. In fact, I know that it's helped a lot of my people with anxiety, back pain, sleep disorder. It actually helps people get off of main drugs. But when you get involved in the program like I am, that's a no-no. I don't care what you try to convince yourself that you're smoking weed, but you're not clean and sober. It's good that you're not maybe slamming heroin or doing fentanyl and meth, but you're still not clean and sober if you smoke marijuana. And there needs to be a healthy boundary when it comes to that.
Can you kind of explain a little bit about that and why that's kind of a big thing when it comes to like AA or the program
Yeah.
in general, all mind altering substances? Because there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah, there's a definite reason. It goes back to because anything else could be a stepping stone back. Okay, well, for me, I'm not an alcoholic at all. I'm not an alcoholic. If I have 2 shots of whiskey, I'll fall asleep at the bar. Alcohol has never caused me to go crash a car, to go abuse my family, to steal from you. I don't have a problem with it. In fact, I probably could maybe have a drink and be okay for a few months. But when you do other substances, that's not really your main drug, you run the risk of, like my sponsor tells me, you could drink for 6 months. But how do you know in 6 months you might not be that comfortable that you won't put a needle in your arm again?
Yeah.
Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's okay to do. Just because your insurance company gets a lot of money to get you on these legal marijuana clubs and get these marijuana cards, it doesn't mean it's okay. When it comes
Right.
to the program, we say all mind altering substances because it opens up the doorway for other stuff. You're still getting high. You're not sober. I know that marijuana might help you with your day-to-day functions, but you're driving drunk under the influence. You're going to work under the influence. You're not clean and sober. I'm glad that it helps people, and I'm okay with it. But when it comes to like the program, we have a set of rules that goes back to, I don't know, what is it, the 40s with Dr. Bill and Bill. I mean, with Dr. Silkworth and Bill W. They got it. The principles have to stay the same. We're not changing it today because it's worked for so long.
Right. I think that it actually reminds me a lot of something I struggle with in the
Yeah.
Instagram community all the time. And it
Yeah.
is that there are a lot of people who have quit drinking per se, maybe not because they're an alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because alcohol was causing them issues in their life. And they're like, it's fine. We don't have to call ourselves alcoholics, or you can just moderate, or you can just
Yeah.
do this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like for those of us who almost died from it, it's like
Yeah.
that message can be like super harmful. And just because it's not your experience
Yeah.
doesn't
I
mean
I
that
I
it's
mean,
not.
I can completely understand what you're saying because, like, there's a couple things with that. I used to try to tell myself, I'm just gonna do 1 shot of meth on the weekends and have some sex with some crazy girl and have that rush for the weekend, and I'm gonna go back to work on Monday. It never works that way. So if you
Right.
I mean, like they say in the book, if you can drink like a gentleman or use cocaine like a gentleman, my hat is off to you. Because if I do meth, I can try and tell myself it's just gonna be 1 shot and have some sex and paint the car, but we all know it's gonna be about 4 weeks before I come back to normal, and I probably end up in jail. And the other thing is, there's a lot of those people, like you're saying, influencers and stuff on Instagram, that it's more dangerous when a celebrity or an influencer with the following is promoting something because more people tend to follow them and think it's okay. One of the things I'm struggling with right now is there's this celebrity, mind you, I'm not against him, but this guy Jelly Roll keeps trying to talk about sobriety. And it's like, you have an open reality show where you're drunk on every episode with a wife who's a prostitute and you're smoking marijuana on every episode. You are not an example of sobriety under any aspect. I don't care if you stop doing meth and coke. That's great. And I'm proud of you for that. But you're not clean and sober. And you should not be speaking about sobriety at all because you send a wrong, dangerous message to kids who follow you
Right.
because
There
they
is a
think, oh,
difference.
well, Jelly Roll gets drunk on Friday night with his prostitute girlfriend, so it must be okay. I'm sober now. No, no, you're not. You're not. He's a really bad example of sobriety. Not a bad guy, and I can respect his decision, but you're not sober. And I feel when it comes to stuff like Instagram and influencers and celebrities, I constantly encourage people, please be very careful who you follow. Just because they have a million followers or just because they're a celebrity or a rock star, that doesn't, they just get in bigger trouble than we do. And they could be more dangerously affecting children. That's,
Yeah.
like, that's one of the biggest things lately. I've been watching people use this guy. And I mean, if you watch it, all you have to do is go on cable and watch the show. He's drunk and smoking pot every episode. That's not an example of sobriety that I'm a part of.
Right. I completely understand that. So, can you tell us a little bit about what brought you into sobriety? Like, what is a little bit of your background?
Oh, good Lord. I
Loaded
went,
question, right?
well, I mean, I went from graffiti to street gangs to the U.S. Navy, leaving the Navy as a veteran, coming back to the streets, finding out the streets weren't the same. I can't really have the job I wanted, even though I was a veteran in the Navy. As a fireman, I chose to go back to the street life and do drugs and sell drugs and commit crime. And one of the first drugs I tried was crack cocaine. Now, if you're old enough to remember crack cocaine like I do, you only get about 4 days of enjoyment, and then you're completely addicted, selling everything you own for more crack.
Yeah.
So my life took an immediate dump, and I had the next great American choice of thinking I'm going to get on crystal meth, and that's going to save my life. And we've watched speed and crystal meth take a weird journey over the course of the last few years. Whatever it is now is not what I was doing. I immediately got off crack cocaine by injecting crystal meth. And to go from smoking a substance to injecting it with a needle is a roller coaster ride of clusterfuck. And the high was too intense. The addiction was worse. But mind you, I had about a good solid year of enjoyment, maybe 2 years of enjoyment when you're injecting meth rather than cocaine, which was just destroying my life and everyone's around me. The meth journey took a longer journey, but it
Right.
still ruined my life at a greater level than the crack cocaine did in the long run.
It took longer.
It just took longer, and it just because on meth you're a little bit more functional than you are on cocaine. For me, I was, but I have to say that the kick and the come down on meth was so horrible. I was towards the end of my journey. I was rotating meth and heroin. I would have to do heroin because I would stay up for 6 straight weeks. And if you've ever been up close to that long, you know the insanity of sleep deprivation and what it does to your behavior.
I have not. One of the times that I detoxed, I was up for like 3 days seeing stuff and really just crazy. And I don't even begin to pretend to know what 7 days looks like because I was a shit show.
I think I pulled like almost a 14-day run awake, and that's the longest I ever did, and it was really it's insane to think back. And I thought I was cool. I mean, I thought I was sexy. I thought I was good looking. My fashion was awesome. I would walk around thinking I'm the shit. And when I look back now, I'm like, man, it's super embarrassing.
So, what did your life look like at that time? Because you said you were kind of functioning, and I think a lot of people don't really understand that, right? Like, first, you have all this energy, you're doing all the things, right?
Mhm.
You're like Superman.
Well, like when you first start doing, well, for me, when I got on meth, I was functional. I could have that intense sex you wanted because meth, for some reason, for me it had like a sexual journey, and it also had the other half of that was like energetic. I want to make things and create things, and then I want to go out and rob people and steal from people. So in the beginning, I was able to have that great sex I always wanted. Sex was increased, it was better, intensified. My creativity powers were better. I could create, I could draw. I was into graffiti, so I could color and paint better. I was really I had a thousand and one ideas that I wanted to have happen, and I was in the middle of making them all come to life. But
Right.
somewhere along that journey, it all starts to like back up like traffic on a freeway, and you get stuck. Before I knew it, sex wasn't like I thought it was. I couldn't function as good. It was frustrating trying to function. My creativity was starting to get lost, and I was fucking up drawings, over drawing and ruining things I used to be good at. And then my projects like painting and building stuff started to, I would fucking break shit. It all comes to an end eventually. I tell people, eventually every good moment you have on drugs will come to a crashing halt.
Right. And I think it's the same for every journey with drugs or alcohol, right? It's like at first, everybody's thing is it's like God Himself came down and gave you a solution to everything, right? Like
Yeah.
it's great. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, it's like not. So that's super confusing, right? Because we're always chasing that, like that beginning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're always chasing that first high. Like with crack cocaine, I spent a year or a couple years chasing that first hit. With meth, the problem with meth is you get a couple years of that first hit. Every time you inject, it's extremely intense. Until when I reached the end of my run, I mean, I was doing my last day alone, I did 17 injections of meth that weren't working. So your tolerance just gets to a level that's hard to surpass, and your body starts to come to like a level of, dude, I can't take this anymore. And you're not listening to all the signs. You're not sleeping. You're not shitting. You're not bathing. Your behavior to other people, your relationships, friendships, uh, sexual relationships, friends, family. You're suffering on every aspect. Your body, your brain isn't listening to your body, giving you all the signs.
So, what was kind of the end for you? Like, what changed things for you?
Well, I went to prison for a very long time. I did about 19 years in prison. I come home from prison with PTSD at a really intense level. I was having drugs brought over to my mom's house that I turned in. My mom, when I was in prison, moved up to this uh, nice area in Santa Clarita, which is like a white suburban area, and I immediately started to turn my room into a trap house, a jail cell like trap house. I ruined my mom's home. I turned it into the second story of her home. She wouldn't even go upstairs. It began to look and feel like a trap house. I was having women brought over so I could have relationships with them quickly, have sex, kick them out. I was isolating. I was getting more of physically and verbally aggressive to everyone around me. I started to really get violent. I think I made it. I tried a couple times to go to rehab because, like, I was on parole after prison. So, like, I was trying to just get out of going to jail again. I had a couple violations. And towards the end, I remember what really shut the program down for me was one night I was going schizophrenic. The methamphetamine was making me schizophrenic. I thought I was on a reality show, The Truman Show, and I was the star of it. And I remember accusing my dad of having sex with my girlfriend, who, mind you, at this point, She's not even in the state anymore. She's in Pennsylvania. She's
Right.
left. She's on the fucking Eastern Seaboard right now. And I'm in my psychosis. I think she's around the corner. She's at all times making fun of me doing meth. And I thought my dad was having sex with her. And I come down the stairs one night and I hit my dad with an alarm clock in the back of his head. And I punched him. And the reality is, like, my sponsor always tells me I have to say this as many times as possible. I have to say it out loud. I have to hear myself say it. I have to really deal with the fact that I hit my dad with an alarm clock and split his head open. And that's how crazy it was. I mean, that's how bad drugs are. It gets to that point. And like my dad,
Like,
when he turns around,
nothing. Like it was like just what you thought was happening.
yeah, I made up a scenario in my head and acted out on it. But that's my behavior was getting like that. If it wouldn't have been my dad, it would have been someone in the streets. Right. My dad just happened to be the closest thing that I could manifest this thought on. And I remember when he turned around and looked at me, he looked at me with like every emotion a father can have, like anger, hurt, betrayal, sadness, letdown, confusion. Like the look on his face was just like, what the fuck? And I knew when he turned around, I was like, hey, man, I'm going to prison. I'm going to go to jail for this. There's no way out of it. And like, I was just so defeated that I just did that. It kind of snapped me into a brief reality.
Right.
Like it gave me like a lucid moment. Like, I think I went too far this time. You kind of can't take that one back. You know, that's my dad. And my mom was sitting next to him. And then mind you, I'm accusing my father of fucking my girlfriend in front of my mom. Like how disrespectful and insane is that in the same sentence? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I went back up the stairs into this room that had become the room I lived in at that time. I call it that damn room because it became the epitome, the bane of my existence was this room. It was, let me paint a picture for you. The drywall was ruined. I had punched holes in the wall. I was throwing all my used dirty needles with blood and or drugs that I couldn't use in the walls. This room was surrounded by needles in the drywall.
So did your parents, thousands, they never like kicked you out or never were like
they tried to. They were just not physically capable of kicking me out. They had already stopped enabling me, but they just couldn't physically remove me. I was too strong and I was too violent. Right. So this room had thousands of needles in the walls. The fan is hanging off the ceiling. There's graffiti all over the walls. I started to just draw on the walls. The carpet's ripped up. The floorboards have been ruined. I've been doing upgrades at 3 a.m. with saws and hammers. I don't even know what I'm building in this room. It's a tweaker's paradise. I've got a mattress on the floor. The mattress on the floor is covered in sweat, urine. I've got a pile of like semi-clean, semi-dirty laundry I pass out and come to sleeping next to. And mind you, at this time, the importance of this is really serious. I don't fall asleep or wake up. I pass out and I come to because I'm staying awake doing meth for so long that I'm just finally falling asleep, not knowing when I fell asleep. And for some reason, I've got a monitor that I've been watching porn on with a stack of filthy DVDs. I don't know how the methamphetamine is it's never ending. It's weird. It's like I bought a bag of meth that the bag never finished, which is weird. I don't know if that's God, Odin. I don't know what it is, but after I hit my dad, I go up to this filthy room and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I finally realize I can't do this anymore. I've had a few attempts at rehab and detoxes. They didn't do anything, but this is that moment where I realized this is too much. I can't do it. I don't know how to stop. And I start praying. I get on my knees in a fucking pitch black room. I don't even have electricity. I think the DVD player that I'm watching porn on has an extension cord that runs out the window downstairs plugged in that my parents don't know. Cause I've already popped all the power outlets in this room. And I get in, I have a candle burning, a little tea candle burning on the counter on some fucked up dresser in the bedroom. And I get on my knees and I start praying to God and Odin, both of them. Like I'm praying to both these deities. Like, I can't do this. I don't know how to stop. Please. I need help. I'm violent. I'm confrontational. I'm not my everything sucks. My life sucks. The fact that I'm not in prison again is amazing. And I think it was about 2 weeks I was praying every day. Solid every day. And I'm doing shot after shot. The drugs aren't ending. It's weird. Like they're not, like this bag just keeps refilling itself. And I don't know what, and I'm not leaving the house at this point because I'm scared I'm going to get arrested for hitting my dad. And I remember on the last day, I come to in the morning-ish where there's the sunlight's creeping through these windows that I have like sheets thumbtacked over the windows. I remember praying again, and I remember doing my first shot, and I think I did about 16 or 17 shots of meth, and they weren't working. Now, as a junkie, For you to smoke or snort a line or do an injection and it not work is really frustrating. Now, mind you, when I'm getting to the end of these shots, I'm getting kind of angry. I'm getting really, really frustrated. And I did the last injection on the vein in my penis because I've done every other vein in my body, my neck, my arms, my leg, my thighs. I do the last injection and I don't miss the shot. It works. And I set the needle down and I'm angry because I'm like, dude, that's like, how is this not working? And I'm getting angry. And something finally snaps in my brain to remind me, dude, you've been praying for this. You've been asking God, Odin, you've been praying to Jesus in a dark room. Please take this from me. I've admitted I don't know how to stop. I physically can't stop. I need an intervention bad. And something snapped in me like, dude, here's your shot. The drugs aren't working. Go get some fucking help. So I remember going to the door and I'm crying. I'm fucking like crying like a snotty little baby that had his ice cream cone taken from him. And I go to the door. Now, the door's not even on. I don't even realize how bad this room was until I got sober, but the door's not even connected anymore. The hinges have been off. I don't even know this. And I try to open the door falls on me. And I run out to the top of the stairs and I call for my mom. And my mom's a really nice, older little lady, little short German lady. She runs up the stairs. She's like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Yeah, mom, whatever you want me to do. I don't give a fuck if you want me to pick up dog shit. I don't care. Don't put me back in that room." And at this point, I don't care what's in that room. I just don't ever want to go back in it.
Right.
And she takes me downstairs and puts me in that nice living room that every family has with the furniture that you're not allowed to sit on. She puts me in this living room, gets me a little TV, buys me a bottle of alcohol. And she's like, "I don't encourage you drinking, but we need you to, I'm going to get you into detox." We made a bunch of calls and detox isn't as easy as people think. You're usually on a waiting list. I had a
Right.
waiting list to be on, and I got on that waiting list. And I drank alcohol and sat on her couch for about 2 weeks while I waited for my day to come. And I sat there and started watching normal movies, no more porn, and I'm watching just regular TV while I drink alcohol and eat throughout the day and sleep. And all I could do is I had been awake on and off for probably 3 years. So mind
Right.
you, it took me about 6 solid months of recovery makeup, of sleeping and eating and sleeping and eating. And I just slept and drank alcohol and ate. And then I got myself into detox. And then from detox, I got into residential treatment. And from residential, I went to sober living. And then from sober living, I managed the sober living. And then from managing the sober living, I moved the recovery center and I worked there. And then I ran 3 sober livings. And then I started building my social media career after that. And I started sponsoring people. And I sponsor whenever I can. And I don't go to many meetings because of what I do for work now. It's kind of hard to actually take the time to drive and sit in a meeting, but I
Mhm.
do stuff like this all the time. It's my best way that I can give back to our community.
Right. So
Yeah.
what do you think is the thing or what is the thing that you want people to know the most about getting sober? Like somebody who wants to get sober, what would you say to them?
Um, you have to. This is really bad. My sponsor doesn't like me saying this, but he also agrees with it. You can't get sober for your girlfriend. You can't get sober for your kid. You can't get sober for your mama. You can't get sober for the job or the house you don't want to lose. As horrible as it sounds, you're never going to get sober until you're at that moment where you are physically, mentally, and spiritually broken. Like I was in that dark ass room. I was completely broke. I didn't give a fuck if you asked me to pick up cigarette butts with my tongue. I was mentally prepared to do that.
Right.
Whatever would not put me back in that room with drugs, I was ready to do. It's funny, at 6 years, I haven't looked at porn ever since. I refuse to look at that or entertain it. Any of that stuff that is like associated with drugs for me, I don't fuck with, period.
Right.
But the hardest thing to tell people is I know a lot of people think, "Oh, well, you know what? I got to do it for my son." I mean, that sounds good in theory, bro, but it's never going to work until you're ready, really, really ready on the inside to do it for yourself.
Right. There has to be like a certain amount of tired, right? Like a certain amount of like you're done.
Well, it's called rock bottom. That
Yeah.
was rock bottom. That's why I say spiritually, mentally, and physically, I was broken. There was nothing left I had to offer myself or anything in the world. And that was when I was like, I'm ready to rebuild.
Yeah. I always tell everybody my daughter's dad had passed away like 3
Yeah.
years ago. And I was still drinking whatever real bad in my
Yeah.
addiction. And I didn't go to the funeral with her, right?
Yeah.
Because how the hell am I going to get on this plane? I'm too shaky. All these people are going to see
Yeah.
me. I was
Yeah.
always in my room, like never coming out. I was like, I'm going to go fly across the world and go to a funeral. No. And I felt like such a piece of shit for so long about that. But like, it didn't cause me to get sober, right? Like, I was like, I need to get sober. I'm such a horrible mom. And I drank for so long after that. And still to this day, it's the thing that I feel the worst about. But it didn't make me get sober. Like, it didn't.
Those kind of things won't. Your mom, and there's nothing that's going to make it until there's a moment that you will know is the moment, the defining moment. I call it rock bottom, and I tell people
after that I was like done, and it was me. I was done, and it wasn't even the worst I had ever been in my addiction, right? But it was a point where I was just done. But I always say, like, you can love your kids, you can love your family. Love doesn't make you get sober, right?
Love will never make you get sober. If that was the case, there's many fathers and dads and husbands and wives that across America would have done it for that if it was just about love, but it's not. It's unfortunate, but that's how strong and cunning the disease is. The disease doesn't care about your kids. It don't care that your mom passed away.
Yep, it doesn't. And it's hard because you try to talk to people about that, and it sounds so harsh, but it's the truth. Like, you can really want to get sober for your children, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Not at all. And that's and I like I told you at the beginning, I don't speak bullshit, and I'm not going to waste nobody's time with I'm not just going to tell you something you want to hear, because the reality is it's not really like that. I'm not going to waste your time, and I don't want you wasting mine. So I tell sponsees all the time, like when they don't want to do their step work and stuff, I'm like, okay, well, you're wasting my time, bro. That's what I'm here for. If you just want a cool tattooed guy that you say is your sponsor, go get another one, because if you want me to sponsor, you got to do steps.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So, what did we go over? Okay. So, rock bottom.
Yeah.
What else? What else do you think is like a must in getting sober?
Well, okay, so I have my own issues with the program due to a lot of the stuff in LA. Our program, our NAAA community in LA has become sort of like a fashion and a dating scene. So, but the foundation of it is amazing. And I tell people all the time, I spent 3 solid years in those rooms. For 3 years, I had, whether I liked it or not, to get sober, you have to do shit you're not going to want to do. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to learn. You have to be embarrassed. You have to humble yourself. You have to make amends. I had to get involved and do 2 commitments a week. I had to do my steps. I'm on my 3rd time of doing, I think my 4th round of doing my steps right now. Every couple of years, I redo them with my sponsor. So I had to go to AA, to NA. I had to do everything. I went to 1 meeting a day. I went to every damn stupid barbecue or stupid AA dance on Valentine's. I went to the conventions. I sponsored people. I did my steps. I did everything they told me for 3 years. Now, at 3 years, I reached a part where I feel I'm comfortable. I have a good, solid foundation. I have a solid group, a core group of men and women that I talk to in recovery. We've all got good boundaries. I can now separate myself. I don't like these things, so I'm not going to be involved in this anymore.
Right.
I like these things, so I'm going to keep these things with me.
So, I do the same exact thing. I worked in treatment for almost the entire time that I was suffering.
And that's exhausting. That's exhausting, by the way.
Working in treatment. Horrid. I finally quit 3 years ago and moved home, and that was when I got sober, because I kept getting sober and going back and getting sober and going and lying. And I finally realized, like, I don't have a person in the world who knows me. Like, I go home and drink every day by myself, and these people think I'm sober, like my best friend, and probably don't even think I'm sober. Right now, they're like, yeah, we knew.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. The other thing is, when you get that involved in the program like I was, you start to see who's lying. You start to see who's cheating on their husband, who's cheating on their husbands, who's lying at their work, who's doing insurance fraud and illegal criminal activities. They just happen to not be drinking. So there's a lot of stuff you see that you cannot unsee. So I have like I don't want to use the word resentment, but I guess it kind of is a resentment to what I've been through. So I really guard my connections and behavior in that program. But
and still have, I love the 12 steps. I still I don't always go to meetings. I do a lot of Zoom meetings, actually, with like all types of recovery.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time with, like, I don't know, I guess how much everybody thinks that like this is what you need to do and this is how you do it, and then they're not maybe sometimes doing it just like I was, right?
Yeah.
So I was not able to get sober until I stopped lying and
Yeah.
got away and like started fresh and started
Yeah.
telling the truth. Like I finally was like, you're a grown ass woman. If you want to be a drunk, then you just need to be a drunk. Like you got to
Yeah.
stop talking about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then able to get sober. So I think part of the steps really it is real. You do have to get honest with not just like everyone else, but yourself.
Yeah. Well, and one of my arguments on why I officially stopped being a part of those groups is they have a theory in those rooms, which is as long as I'm honest, it's okay. And I tend to say that's only part of it. Just because you're honest and you're cheating and lying doesn't mean it's okay that you went and shared about it. You're supposed to be an example and correct those behaviors. And at 15 years of sobriety, you're still cheating on your third wife and you're stealing money at work and doing insurance fraud. Just because you're owning it at the meeting every single Thursday, you're supposed to be changing that behavior.
There's
Or
change.
why am I listening to you? You're wasting my fucking time.
Right.
So
Yeah. Part of
I
it is becoming a better person, right? And I
yeah,
think
nobody's perfect.
in the meetings, and I was like, I would hear a lot of judgment and a lot of, and listen, there is some judgment in, I guess, all of this, right? Because
Yeah.
you see some stuff that you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But then again, that was me at one time. So it's hard for me to watch people, be super judgy just because they got better, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I still really love the principles of AA, but
Yeah.
sometimes just like church, right? Just like church, sometimes people muddy the waters.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So I definitely have loved having you on. I think you're doing an amazing, amazing work out there. The one other thing that I wanted to ask you about was kind of your stance on harm reduction. And I know
Okay.
you're really, really against it.
Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of harm reduction. I want to hear your take on it and why. It's not just because,
Well, harm reduction, the idea of it is not bad. And
right.
but I can speak for my area, the LA, San Fernando Valley, in what it's become is like this nonprofit way for groups to show up and make a lot of money off of our misery. Now, there's nothing wrong with helping someone and loving them back to feeling normal and all that hippie stuff. That's great. But when you're making money off showing up and handing out needles to people that are dying on the street of fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, there has to be common sense. There's nothing in stopping the spread of disease that's happening. These people are out of their mind mentally. They're not they're trying to say that they're stopping the spread of disease. They're helping by caring for them and giving them clean needles. These people are not even smart enough to dispose of these needles. We're finding them all over
Right.
our streets. They're everywhere on the streets. So what these groups are harm reduction is saying is these drug addicts who are choosing to do drugs on the streets, their safety is more important than the mothers, the children, the women, the fathers, the senior citizens, the people that work and go to and want to ride the bus. And by proxy, these addicts, their behavior, if you've watched the news like I do, their behavior is so bizarre. It's dangerous, it's violent, it's sexually inappropriate. There are so many angles with, like, for instance, I was a junkie, I was a crackhead. When you show up with a group called Harm Reduction and hand out a, a bag of needles or a crack pipe to someone, I don't think they realize what happens when you do that. It's not just about giving them clean supplies. As a junkie, if you gave me a clean needle, I'm going to spend 2 weeks using the same needle. That's 2 weeks of me stealing from you, robbing from you, probably assaulting people physically, verbally and verbally scaring people on the streets. Not only the fact of, and then I'm going to leave this needle on the streets to endanger someone else walking by. A crack pipe also. A crackhead is so violent when they want crack, they will physically beat you up. I've done it. They will rob you. People have been raped by these people also. So there's like what it takes to fill these supplies it's insane. You giving someone a bag of needles because you think you're helping them, that's not helping someone. If you want to help them, maybe give them water and sit there and talk to them about how they can get help. You can't give anyone who's struggling with addiction the exact tool that is causing their death. There's nothing recovery about that at all. That's just people that are making money. Because if you think about it, if your end game is to help and stop drugs, there'd be no harm reduction nonprofit if drugs were stopped. They don't want drugs stopped because they're making a lot of money on it.
Well, and not to get too political or anything on here, because I don't want no hate either, but
Yeah.
there's something to the calling yourself nonprofit and being nonprofit, but people don't realize that they still make money.
They're
Nonprofit,
making millions of dollars,
yeah,
millions
does
of
not
dollars.
mean that you don't make money. In fact, you get all types of scholarships, grants. All
Yep.
these people are still being paid. So
Yeah.
because you say that you're a nonprofit, like, okay, I have a
It's a
company,
trick.
right?
Yeah.
I have a company for coaching, and I do a lot of events around my city. And I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to make it free for people, like if you fundraise or you whatever. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, well, if you're not nonprofit, and I'm like, but wait a minute, I'm not getting paid. And all these nonprofit people, they get money off of this, right? So it would confuse me because I'm like, I don't take any money, but my company is, I guess, not. I haven't filed it as a nonprofit, so I would be so confused because I'm like, here I am, broke. I should have filed myself as a nonprofit.
Well, but the scary thing is, a lot of the guidelines when you investigate it, and I say this as a disclaimer, I'm not against anybody's personal lifestyle choices, to each his own, what they choose in their sexual or personal life. But there's a lot of things that they force you into agreeing with, like you have to agree to be a part of the LGBTQ community. I think the Black Lives Matter. I think a lot of these like Antifa type things where it's like more like anarchy type groups, and the harm reduction as well. They're like they have to sign up and be okay with a lot of these things that are also included under the guidelines. And they
Right.
tell you to pass these syringes out because if they stopped drugs, there would be no harm reduction. They don't want drugs stopped.
Right. And that's how they're making money.
And they're
Like,
also connecting you to all these other groups that do nothing, not do nothing, but they're connecting you to other groups that cause a lot of chaos on the streets as well.
right.
There's nothing reducing about it.
Yeah, I just think a lot of people don't realize that nonprofit isn't necessarily not making money. A lot of times they are like $1 million, $1 billion industries. And there's something to be said about, harm reduction and handing out these needles and things like that. And of course, I want people to be safe. But if they're going to use that same needle for the next week, right, it's going to be dirty anyways. Or,
Yeah, but here's the thing, real quick.
Mhm.
There's nothing safe because they're not in their right state of mind. Now, if this was a businessman who owned a home and just once a week casually injected meth, he could
Right.
probably dispose of it. But you're giving someone who poops on the street, who doesn't wear clothing, who steals and lives in a tent. You really think that this person is responsible and mentally capable to dispose of this? And they're not just giving them one needle, they're giving them bags of like 100. They're leaving
Right.
these things all over the streets after they've used them. They don't have a sharps container that they're coming back and collecting these things from. These are people that are not capable of understanding safety protocols and stuff like that.
Right. And
It's
not
dangerous.
set out of judgment, right? Because it's something you've definitely been in their shoes, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
even the violence, right? It says something about it because you were in a place where you were like living with your father and hurt him, right? Like,
Can you imagine the freedom of being on the streets and attacking
yeah,
random people? They do it. If you've watched what's happening on the news in LA, the homeless people have more rights than business owners and homeowners. They take over people's porches, their backyards. Nobody cares.
right.
And it's insane. So, and I'm a drug addict, and also drugs are so dangerous today. If you sleep good at night, knowing how dangerous fentanyl is, knowing that you're going to give someone a needle, that one needle. This is what we ask you in Dope Sick. If you believe in harm reduction, then I'm asking you to put your name and your company's name on that syringe when you give it to them. So if they overdose on fentanyl or heroin, their family and everyone else knows who gave them the needle. If you feel that strongly about harm reduction, with respect to the rest of us who've gotten off the streets, put your name on that fucking needle so they know where to go, who killed them, because that's how dangerous drugs are today. It could be one needle,
Right.
one shot can kill you. So if that's what
Right.
you feel, put your name on that needle.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. Is there anything else you want to tell our viewers before we go?
I mean, anybody that wants to talk about recovery, I respond to all direct messages as long as it's nothing weird.
All right. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
on and talking with us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
As we conclude this powerful episode of Controlled Chaos, a recovery podcast, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every listener who has joined us on this journey of resilience and renewal. These stories are shared with the hope that someone out there struggling in the shadows of addiction may find a glimmer of hope and inspiration. If you're listening and in need of support on your own path to sobriety, please remember that you are not alone. Visit my website at www.controlledchaoscoaching.com and schedule a discovery call today. Together we can explore the possibilities of healing, growth, and a brighter future ahead. Thank you for being a part of this community, for your courage in facing your challenges, and for believing in the power of transformation. Remember, there's always hope, and help is within reach. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep moving forward on your journey to recovery. Love you mucho.